Hello, hello, hello. And today I will be quickly talking about how to effectively use the built-in HDRI SkyTexture that Blender comes with. Um, for that, you need to enable a add-on, I think. Let me quickly check that in preferences. And if you take in Sky here, yeah, the Light and Dynamic Sky add-on. Just tick this. When it's active, you can use this in your world change, and I will explain how this works, because this has some pretty tricky things and may sometimes look weird. For this, we will be using an icosphere just as a demonstrator with the gold procedural material that I did a few tutorials ago. So yeah, let's change this to world, and then let's go this to rendered. Okay, Shift A, and then just type in sky textures, and here it is. You also have a normal sky texture in default Blender, but it's not the Nishita. It's like one of these two, which are not that great. You can see the difference, like here. Like it's honestly like it's not that cool. But then you get this one, and this one is actually pretty nice. But like you can see here, it is way too bright. Um, you can go with the sun intensity. I don't like doing that. Like you can see like here, like it is way too bright. It's just very much in your face. You see that especially when I add a plane and put this down here, like how bright this really is. Like if you get bounce light, it's way too bright. You could put this down probably. Like this is an option that works. The disadvantage is your background itself gets a bit like less color. So you could use this. What I like to do is though you can go into your light path, no, into your film and just put the exposure down to like 0.1 or something, or 0.4 or something like this. Just play with the exposure rather than the strength. You can still do this as a fine-tuning mechanism, I guess, but you can pretty effectively just use the exposure levels to control this. So, secondly, you have your sun rotation. This basically controls where your sun is going to be pointing. Um, Pretty self-explanatory. Sun elevation is basically how high the sun is. At a certain part, the sky will look a bit weird. You can use it as indirect light, I found, but not as direct light. For example, if you have like a sky shot, like something like this, it looks pretty shitty. But like as indirect light, like you can see here, it can look pretty damn good actually. Um, let's keep this something around like here. For the other thing, sun size basically does not matter for the intensity. It just matters how big the sun that you see honestly is. Like you can see here, it's just like how big do you want your sun to be. Um, Also a downside of this node is that if you use a glare with it, it looks pretty damn shitty. I will also show this in a second. Like if you go into the compositing nodes and use nodes, and if you like to use what I do is use a glare with fog glow. This looks pretty damn shitty if you have the sun directly in your vision. It basically just makes a giant blob of just light in your scene, which doesn't look very good. So you should, if you have direct sun vision, like if you have the sun directly in your render, you should always put like a different like sun thing in front of it, so you don't get that big blob of something. Or what you can also do is just um have the sun not be there and make your own sun, which is probably what I would advertise for if you have something in your scene that looks into the sun. Then make your own sun and just use this sky as a base level. Um, the other things is attitude, you have to really crank. Like for example, if I put this to like 5K, you will start to see that something changes, but at like 200 meters, like the changes, like it's like nothing really that changes. So like you have to really crank it in. If I put like 20K in here, you start to see what it does. Um, Second of all, the air. The air is very funny. You can do a lot of cool things with it, especially if you tone down the air, because if you see like you get like this very clear picture, which can be very nice. The ozone levels, the more ozone, the more blue it is. Basically, like you see it very well here in the shadows, like they become very very blue. Um, the advantage of having dust is like your sun isn't as intensive, but it also like kills your background basically. You can't really use it anymore, and if you have no dust, it also looks a bit eh. So you have to find like a fine balance in this. But also like these are like small things that you can use. I personally use this sketch a lot because it's very very flexible, and especially when you have like night scenes, you don't want a lot of light, but a tad bit of light. You don't overly want to use the sun for it, but because it doesn't really work. What I usually just end up doing is like putting this something like here or something and just use it as you use it as indirect light, and maybe even change some of the ozone levels or dust levels just to have like a general feel in the scene. For example, take the dust down and maybe like something like this if I want more sun represented. Like you obviously can't use this like as a background because it like doesn't really work, but for general bounce light and indirect light it works really really well. You just have to move your way around this. You can also like multiply things into here. For example, just for example, obviously like this isn't going to work really well, but what you could do is you could select these two and just mix them. This could be cool, I think, if you have a certain HDRI, but where you want to have control over. I feel like you could really well multiply these together and have like a certain control object in your scene, which then just puts these two together. Like I said, like you can do a lot of things with this, and it's a really cool tool to have in your arsenal, especially for a default Blender add-on that is installed. So yeah, I hope I could explain this node to you fairly well, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.